Columbus. Tune in and join us. Disrespected Media.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Crucible. That's a sweet T-shirt there. I'm Michael Arace, your host from the disrespected.com. Disrespected Media LLC is my company. This is one of the podcasts, Cannonballs, a Blue Jackets related podcast is the other. This one, of course, is dedicated to the Crew. 10:30 on Friday as we record, we being myself and, of course, Neil Sika, who joins us on this program for the second time. And
I'm honored, Mike, to be here for the second time.
It's always great to have Neil on. His numbers are unbelievable. His Q scores are off the charts. And his knowledge is always something to dive into, wallow in. Neil, thanks for joining us. Where do we find you today?
You find me in the capital city of the state of Texas, Austin. You may have heard they have a team. And
I have heard that. Have you run into Andy Loughnane or Dave Greeley down there yet?
I have not seen Andy Loughnane. I did see him upon my most recent visit, which was in August of 2024.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Neil.
I will say that it was Andy and several of the Crew staff members or former Crew staff members who are now in Austin did come by the booth and say hello. So that was very cordial of them. And this is the fifth straight year I think they open at home, and they've got Minnesota United. So we were thinking we might have a James Rodriguez debut, but does not look like that will be the case tomorrow. But should be fun anyway. MLS season 31. Hard to believe it's here.
Of course, Neil Sika is one of the, well, he's the finest, but he's among the stable of play-by-play people who work for Apple TV. So he's back on the road instead of doing it all from a studio. Back on the road this year, unfortunately, without his regular
my hotel room here. Yeah, helping you out.
Nice place. It's a nice place. But so Neil's in Austin to do Austin's home and season opener tomorrow on Apple Television. And we've talked about it before, but just to say it again for informational purposes, there's no more MLS season pass. It's all rolled into the Apple TV package, and you can see all the games there if you subscribe. I don't like subscribing to any Apple things right now, but I will, and then I'll write it off. Neil, of course, works for any other number of networks concerns, including the Big Ten network. He's a busy guy. Folks, it's a clinic in how to call a game. There's a little throwback to it. He lets a game breathe. He's a friend of mine, and I'm not just pandering. He's really good. So I can't wait. Do you have a Crew assignment coming up, Neil, at any point? Do you have any idea?
I do, yeah. March 14th, the Nashville game, which should be a good one. So
excellent, because Neil called Crew games on radio.
First time in the stadium in almost 2 years, which will be exciting.
Oh, that's great. Of course, yeah. Neil called, was a regular at the old stadium for, 14 years?
16 full seasons.
Wow. So that's Neil Sika.
Yeah, 2004. Freddie Adu's first trip to Columbus was the first game I ever did. So
quite exciting.
Long time ago.
So you covered, Beckham never made it, right?
No, I did some Beckham games. Well, Beckham did not come in 2008. Right. Some Beckham games in LA, but yes.
Right. And then, but Thierry Henry did come.
He did. I believe 2012. It was an afternoon game on like a Sunday. He had a big game.
Thank you, Rain Man. He's unbelievable, folks, to recall his photographic.
I'm not lying, I promise.
Neil, let's get to the I guess the freshest news of the day. The disrespected.com a couple of days ago broke that the Crew are close to signing Andres Gomez, a 32-year-old Portuguese international who's played. He's in Lille, but he played previously at Everton and at Barcelona.
A pretty decent resume.
Yeah, pretty decent resume. He's got a number of national caps. He's a central midfielder, and this is you don't put it in exactly these words, but he's going to slot into Darlington Nagby's place on the field. Do you have any thoughts? There's some, you see fans voice some legitimate concerns. He had that horrific leg injury on the Sun tackle 2019 or something. When was it?
Right.
Anyway, you can check thedisrespected.com for the exact year on that horrific leg injury. But did come back.
November, I believe, of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was back by the next February. So he's had injuries this year. He's played only 8 minutes for Lille in League One in France. And I don't know. It's do we have any idea what we're going to get other than a guy who if he's fit is technically excellent as a holding midfielder?
Yeah, I think that's the first headline you look at. Someone who is comfortable on the ball, someone who can control things. Are you getting a like for like Nagby replacement? Probably not. Is he going to be used to right off the bat handling maybe the rigors of MLS transition and pressing, and where Nagby was a one-man skeleton key in that case? Maybe not, but now you've added a little bit more technical depth, I think, to your midfield with Chambeau, Hugo Picard, Gomez. I think they can all play together and align for what Henrik Rydström's vision is with this relationism and guys who might be comfortable playing a similar style. The bigger question I guess I have, and it's one that whether Darlington Nagby was here or not, who's going to be the tenacious ball winner or one who's going to be the distraction in that crew midfield? I think this guy, the resume speaks for itself. I mean, when you play for the caliber of teams that he has, I think he'll maybe have a little bit of an adjustment window, but will fit in fine, will fit in nicely to the crew identity, at least of how their on brand has been the last couple of years. But there's still some questions that remain in terms of how they grab control of that midfield. I think he can do the job when they have the ball. They've shown that they've got multiple and versatile pieces that can do that. But it's the other element that still leaves me asking a little bit of questions with this team going into 2026.
Right. It's a question that's been asked since Aiden Morris went overseas.
Sure. They haven't found. Look, he doesn't grow on trees. I mean, he is such a unique player, and he's become a stud in his own right. And Middlesbrough is in position to make the Premier League, where they sit right now in the championship. But it's hard to find that. Do you have it somewhere in your roster or in your academy right now, or are you going to have to go out and acquire it?
Well, from what I saw of Hugo Picard, not just last year, but even more so in camp in Clearwater, their first camp in January, he's all over the place. And we know, and he's all over the place in quick bursts. And Chambos, as we know, is a guy that covers more miles in a game than usually anyone else on the field. And is that not what someone in the station of his career that Gomez is in, isn't that what he needs? I mean, he's going to need someone to cover territory that's either in front of him or behind him.
I mean, he's 32, and I'm sure he's used to scenarios where he's a little bit more static and stationary in his dictation of where he plays the ball and going forward, all the running that's involved. It can be a rude awakening for a midfielder. I don't care what the caliber of or level that you've played at. So to have those worker bees around you or Shuttler do a lot of the nuts and bolts of what's required, even if you play with a single pivot or someone in front of the back line, that's going to be on the crew to find that responsibility. But
right. I think one thing that, well, I'll just throw it out there, Neil, and see what you think. But, Nagby, for his unparalleled possession and his ability to, as you see, was a skeleton key. He could crack things in any midfield. But I think it was American Soccer Analysis, a line I read a few days ago where, last year he didn't go forward nearly as much. That it was if he didn't have the right key, the ball was going back, which is part and parcel of the way of that Wilfried Nancy's possession system worked. Ridgestrom's is going to be a little different here.
Yeah.
They're talking about more direct. And I just throw this out there to say that if this is a good fit for the team and the player, then Andre Gomez will be going forward more this year than Darlington Nagbe did last year.
Yeah, but I also think too. I don't want to keep beating the well of the Aiden Morris factor, but that's where his value was so invaluable. The ability to break up a transition attack, to shut that down when they do have front half control, and Nagby can creep forward a little bit more. Even if you lose the ball, this guy's right there to win it back, and then you can recalibrate your attack. So, yes, I do expect that you'll get a little bit more of a range from with what Gomez wants to do. But again, you're still leaving yourself susceptible on the back end. But I think there's also something to be a little bit more, I don't know if relaxed is the right word, but if you get Camacho back now, right?
Yes, he's back.
Zawatsky's going to start the year playing center back, regardless of how versatile he is. Tim Bezbachenko even said a few years ago, like his definition, he's a center back now. He said that in 2023. And so if they can plug him in there, and then you feel maybe a little bit more confident. But yeah, I think that's where Darlington had to be a little bit more cautious and not as adventurous, knowing their midfield situation last year as compared to 23 and the first part of 2024.
Yeah, obviously part and parcel of the Gomez signing is and they're not going to throw him in there to play 90 right away, or maybe maybe not. I mean, he will be managed, he'll fit in, and there'll be a transition period, as you said. But especially given some of the other moves that Isatal made during this offseason, it's clear that Zawatsky is a center back on this team, that he was not the answer to the question, who will replace Darlington Nagbe at midfield. He'll be back there, I'm guessing, with Steven Moreira. He's on leave, I guess you'd say, death in the family. He's back in France and will not be in Portland tomorrow night for the opener against the Timbers, the season opener. It's a 10:30 start on the Apple TV. And the only other player that we understand is definitely unavailable for selection is Mo Farsi, who's still rehabbing from that sports hernia surgery. Wassam Abu Ali, they say he's 100% fit, but he hasn't. He only just got back into full training. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But
on the turf up there, so you're probably going to be cautious with his minutes.
But given all that, obviously Schulte in goal. If they stick with three in the back, and Ridgestrom kind of indicated, Neil, that he was going to skew toward what they're familiar with at the start, rather than try and put a different formation and jam his systems. So assuming that I think Amundsen, Camacho in the middle, Zawatsky on the right side of the back line. Definitely Shambo at central midfield. Who's with him remains to be seen. Taha Habrun is 100%, but he was Howell earlier in January. He wasn't at the start of camp, but Picard or Taha, I guess, with Dylan Shambo in the middle, and Arston and Herrera on the flanks, with Gazdag, Abu Ali, and Diego Rossi up top. See any chinks in my guesstimations there, Neil?
I think that would be a pretty good way to surmise what they're going to put out there tomorrow, and I think they're expecting, knowing Portland full well, like Portland, to me, when I've watched them play, and I had them numerous times last season, and they add all these attacking pieces, and they kind of look like they're puzzled at times when they get into the attack, but they can be lethal in transition. So I expect the Crew to have a lot of the ball in that game tomorrow, and driving forward, just got to be careful not to turn it over in spots where Anthony or all these guys can run out and create a little bit of destruction, because that's, I think, where they're most dangerous. And uh, kind of had some lean games on the back half of the season before they get into the postseason. And then, but they played possession teams too, very tough. Like San Diego's a team that wants to play through you, right, and break you down from the back. And um, the Crew will go about that in their own way. But that's where I think Portland's diligence in defending can frustrate teams. So it's more about, I think, the other question that left a lot of people yearning for goals last year for the Crew was, what is the attack with all these chances they create, but yet not finishing on a consistent basis. Abu Ali is going to play a huge part in that, and you have hopefully a refreshed Gazdag who's going to add to his goal total for the frustrations that he had last season. Can they take advantage of when they have the ball against a stubborn Portland defense who's looking for you to get frustrated before they get out on the run? I'm giving you a little out of the game tomorrow, but that's how I see it playing out tomorrow more than anything in game one.
Well, Phil Neville's team, Neil, what they've been in the playoffs, what each of the past 2 seasons, I believe. Early exits.
They spent a lot of money. I mean, they've been looking for kind of the juggernaut type attack that maybe they had from like the 15 to 18 teams, like the Caleb Porter to Savarese crossover that could defend well, but then you were fearful of players they had that were going forward, and Fernando Adi, and Naglia was obviously part of the 2015 team, but Abobasi and a lot of the wingers that carried some weight for those teams in the late teens. But yeah, and I get the sense Ned Grabavoy, former Crew players, the GM there, they go out, they're not shy on spending money, but do the pieces have they fit properly? And I think that's they're not quite what you would expect from when Seattle goes out and gets a player and turns it into something that's going to be effective. You're just kind of seeing and waiting if they're going to maybe take the step outside of being a wild card team or a lower level Western Conference team right now to something that's a little bit more.
I don't know if you've heard Rydstrom speak or saw the two interviews.
I'm on the Crew a lot. I'm watching both of those interviews.
Well, as you speak there, I'm conjuring any number of things he said. For instance, you talked about the change in styles and what the matchup might look like on the field, tactically speaking. He has said, the players, especially attacker players, yeah, let's play a little more direct. It's not going to be like this. They're not going to play, Red Bulls football. That's not what he's talking about. But they're going to pick their spots, and specifically, he said, and he's repeated this, and I find it an interesting point. It's where do you take your chances? Like he wants more one-on-one. He wants more of an edge on his team. He wants his skilled players to use their skill one-on-one when they have the opportunity. And he wants to take risks. The way he put it was, if we have a 60% chance of creating a goal scoring chance, let's take it against the 40% risk. But within the parameters that where they do it, it's going to be in their offensive side of the field, where they take those chances. So, and again, I just mentioned that because you were talking about Portland's style, what they like to do, and how they would particularly like to frustrate the Crew. And I mean, any comments after that stupid spiel of mine?
No, you bring up a really just, what do we're talking about kind of last year's identities for each of these teams. Who the hell knows actually how it's going to play out tomorrow? This is MLS. And let me bring you lead me to bring up a really important point. I think the very first game of the Wilfred Nancy era, you could see kind of shades of maybe what they wanted to do, but they were not crossing T's and dotting I's in that first game on the road. I think it was at Philadelphia in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So for the new style and or for whatever that Henrik Rydstrom wants to make sure that they have down in this first game, I think you can see maybe flashes, but it's nothing to get frustrated at if it doesn't all come to
Right.
fruition
So
here
let
in
me
game.
ask you this: how tall a task is it to fly across the country, um,
Yeah,
with a new coach who has been here basically for a month? Let's call it 6 weeks.
yeah.
Is beginning to put his own tweaks on Wilfried Nancy's system, as he goes about thinking about how to install more of his stuff with a bunch of players that he really hasn't spent a lot of time with in the grand scheme of things. How tall a task is it to fly across country and play that Portland team?
I think it's it's really difficult. I think just in general, like if you look at the Cruise history in Portland, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't recall the last victory out there. The last time they played out there would have been 2024 or 2023, right? It was one of Zellerion's last games, and it was a wild game. They lost. But even in the early seasons when they would go out there, it's just it's one of the best if you are an MLS fan, right? And I'm sure this has been passed around to the campfire, but if you get an opportunity to take in that environment, it's top 5 in MLS, and it's opening night.
What kind of
So
adjectives would you use to describe Providence Park at game time?
I think when it's going really well, I would quote the old Nev Chandler, the late voice of the Cleveland Browns, Pandemonium Palace, right? It's a 100-year-old building, Multnomah Field, Providence Park as it's known now, this old minor league baseball park that's been converted, and the roof, and it just kind of feels Pacific Northwest and eerie, but the atmosphere is awesome. It's second to none with the supporters. Um, and just waiting around all day, at least well, they're out there west, but it's not an easy place to play, and the turf is quick, and the Timbers thrive off of that. I think with their speed, whatever team they've put together has been one that's been able to take advantage of their home park. But add to the fact that you've got a new identity or trying to impose new ideals to a system that was pretty successful, but not having that voice in charge anymore. I think you lean on in a game like this too. You lean on the guys who have been there playing that way, or the ones that have a lot of MLS experience and success, and have kind of come about the last couple of years and risen to the occasion. And this isn't a playoff game; it's game one. But you want to first impressions are always important, right? So uh, I think even if you don't win that game tomorrow, if you show enough, regardless of the outcome, to build upon, then that's something positive to go forward with. And you don't get a lot of games against the West. And I think what helps the Crew in this situation, since it's game one, because oftentimes later in the season, right, we see where the East and West don't play so often, 5, 6 games a year against the other conference. So you would never say that coaches or players are throwing that game away in terms of the value of what it might mean in the standings. But this is a way to establish the start, and more importantly, the identity of what this team is. Because if depending on who you listen to, there's a wide range of where the Crew are going to finish this year in the East. I
Yeah.
still have them solidly in the postseason. It's just a matter of where they are come playoff time in the East in those playoff spots.
Another point we could make here too about the newness of it all is that in a sit down I had with Issa yesterday, um, among other topics, especially he had Gomez coming in, he couldn't say anything then. I think there's going to be another incoming transfer, and he said, look, if you recall back when Wilfried took over in 2023. he made an assessment of his roster over a span of time, and then we made moves at the summertime. There are guys here now that maybe don't fit Ridstrom's eye, and that there could be a different look coming out of the summer window. You know what I mean? So none of this is cast in stone here on as day one of the season approaches. This is a transitional time for your Columbus Crew.
Yeah, and that's the hard part because you've been spoiled in a short 3-year span, and probably even wanting a little bit more, knowing the caliber of what they had on the roster and what their potential was after the disappointment of the playoffs, at least the last couple seasons. But there's still 2 trophies in the cabinet over the last 3 years. So I think that's important to remember too, where you know, Henrik Rydstrom will be very appreciative of, I guess, what has been done here, but he's got fresh ideas that he wants to establish. And this guy was a winner at Malmö. He expects to win, and I think he's going to assess that over the course. You got a 15-game sprint right now until you have a 6-week break until the World Cup. So it's almost like these 2 mini seasons that are going to form an MLS this year, and it'll be a good barometer over the first couple of months before they can really look at, all right, where are we sitting? We're almost halfway through the season, and what kind of personnel needs do we really need to address here going forward?
Got 2 more for you, Neil. I know you've had a long day of cramming for the Austin season
Sinking
opener there.
25-foot putts, but that's neither here nor there.
You were sinking them. You were
Sinking
sinking.
that
You were sinking 25-foot putts.
one, yeah.
Were you blindfolded?
It was for bogey, so don't get too excited.
Oh, as a subscriber, an early subscriber to thedisrespected.com,
Yeah,
as a consumer of quality podcasts such as The Crucible, as someone who has very sensitive antenna for the league, and as a copious consumer of all things MLS,
yeah.
what would you say your first impression, or how would you describe what your first impressions of Henrik Rydstrom?
I've really enjoyed the conversations that you've had with him, and everyone else that I've spoken with who's gotten at least a little window to chat with him seem extremely affable and intelligent, and maybe even a little bit of a warmth to him as
Yeah.
he navigates this new territory. And um, it's always fascinating when you come from this other world of playing the same sport, and yet now maybe half of the fan base or most of the league fan base hasn't heard of who you are until they Google you, right? Um, but first impressions on the field are one thing, but I think he's kind of got that factor of being a quality human being, and I think that goes a long way, and the players will respect that uh, with the sense of how they go about this season. And I think we've seen the additions now to his staff, and adding Josh Williams to the first team staff as assistant coach, I think is awesome. Um, so assembling that group, and you got an 8-month carnival coming up here. You see these guys more than your family, whether you're a coach or player. It's important to have a strong relationship, and I think from what Wilfred had done here in establishing that, and previous coaches have done that too, but they all have their different ways. So as we learn a little bit more about him, but and I thank you for that, because I thank you for just the inside look. I think us as announcers, and I could say this for some other podcasts, like the window to talk to players when we get that is decent, but going even further and plucking away at conversations and getting to see that is very helpful resource. Appreciative of that, Mike, because you did the dirty work down in Florida amongst the waves, and now back in Columbus. But I've liked what I've seen so far from Rydstrom.
The weather was awful down there, let me tell you.
Yeah,
You
it was
know,
great this past week, from what I hear.
the best line I saw about Rydstrom came off of social media from a Crew supporter, and he mixed some Crew coaches metaphors and said that Henrik Rydstrom is Wilfred Nancy with a neck tattoo.
Does he have a neck tattoo? I haven't picked it
No,
up.
no, it was
Oh.
that part was an homage to Caleb
I s-
Porter when he said, I need, he looked at Giassi Zardes and said, I I I need a forward with a neck tattoo. I need a striker with a neck tattoo, yeah.
And then came Cucho.
Yes, yeah. And lastly, Neil, before I'm gracious enough, it's a word really associated with me, to let you go. Can you give us a general thumbnail of, after going through, as a play-by-play guy,
Yeah.
as an Apple TV guy, a rights holder, there is a preseason process for you.
I'm paying attention.
There's
Oh,
homework. There's homework to do.
yes.
Now you've reached your first exam, if you will. This is a worse
Mhm.
metaphor than anyone Caleb Porter ever came up with. But at this juncture now, as the season's about to start, can you give us your overview of the league? Like, which teams really impress you? And there is chalk out there. Everyone knows it. Which teams have potential to be sneaky? Which teams might even be overrated? And any thoughts on Cincinnati, just to stir the pot?
I'm going to have
We won't
Cincinnati.
mention. We're not going to mention
I'm
Austin.
going to see Cincinnati actually next week in Minnesota, so I'll have a better command of what Pat Noonan is doing. Although they did win their CONCACAF Champions Cup game in the midweek. I think that there were some parts that they lost in the offseason. Orjano, staying on Cincinnati here, that I'd question, but that was maybe more valuable than meets the eye. But they still have Evander. They still have a match-winning number 10. That this league, despite as much parity as there is, and you could pick, okay, Miami, LAFC, everyone's thinking they're going to be good. Vancouver, throw them in there. And then everybody else, you could make a case outside of maybe 2 or 3 teams, right, that feel like they got a shot at making the playoffs. So anyway, from that point of view, if you have a guy who can go out and win you games, going back to the Evander point, or a match winner, a number 10, someone who can score a goal or make a game-changing play. We know Miami and LAFC have those type of players. Then maybe I think you get a little bit of a gravitas in terms of where you might sit amongst the hierarchy right now. But I expect in the Eastern Conference to be just as deep, if not deeper, than last year. I still am a little wobbly on some of the teams that I've kind of seen with the West and where they go forward from here. Minnesota is a great example. I have them tomorrow. They were 4th in the West last year. They bring in James Rodriguez, this Colombian icon, right? But he's still got to work his way into the team because he's signed late. You lose a couple of key pieces. They're playing a completely different philosophy with a new coach. So, could they finish 4th? Yeah, conceivably. Could they finish 8th? They might. I think Chicago, Greg Berhalter, they're a team I think for me to keep an eye on, because I don't think they're going to be as leaky as defensively this year than they were in year one. And if anyone can remember the Crew from 2014 to 15, that was the biggest jump they made, even though that's over a decade ago. But he had them in MLS Cup because of the way they started to defend and then felt more comfortable. And they've got a war chest of attacking talent, may even add some after the World Cup. So there are plenty of those teams that are right on the margins, I think could go either way. And that's what makes the unpredictability each and every year, because teams are deeper, but they're still in many ways on parallel outside of what we see. Now, Miami could just blow away the field because they got it better with a team that already just won MLS Cup. But are they putting their stock in winning Champions Cup? Because I think now you want another MLS team to maybe take that step forward on the international waters. So there's a lot of ways you can go with it. And chalk is boring to me. If we talk about that now, we could be talking about it later on down the road. But Um, I like what we see in terms of just the jockeying for position and who could be emerging here in 2026 with a team that was maybe on the rise and can go a step further here this season.
That's Neil Sika, ladies and gentlemen. Neil, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, that was awesome. I can't wait to read the show notes.
AI it.
Yeah, I have that. I have that thing. Anyway, that's Neil Sika from Apple TV.
Happy new MLS season, everyone. Excited for it.
Yeah, it's looking forward to it. It's kind of curious how it hasn't really been hyped. That I don't know how many casual fans are aware that the season's even starting tomorrow. But
They know
that's
the
been
World Cup is coming.
yeah, they know the World Cup is coming.
Okay.
But that's Neil Sika. I'm Michael Arace from Disrespected Media and thedisrespected.com. Visit my website, check out all my work.
Buy that shirt.
Oh yeah, did you get your t-shirts, Neil? You got them. Are they
I
the
did.
right size?
We got to upgrade the size, but we'll figure it out.
Oh, you're gunned up then. You've been working out too much.
Made push-ups, yeah.
Yes, please like, subscribe, rate, review these podcasts. It helps. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Something Columbus is the name for passing through. Forgotten franchises, they tried to steal the crew. Flyover country left the jackets feeling blue. Fire up no deck and noise, we have a place for you. We love to talk Columbus Crew. Blue Jackets finally get their due. We cover pro